Hello and welcome to episode 4 of For the Good of All with your host, Lorenzo Chambers. And welcome, world. Just wanted to say hello, talk about a couple of things as I usually do. But I was just thinking episode 4, as I was saying it, I was thinking, wow, this is the 4th time that I'm doing this. Only the 4th time, and I'm so excited about the progress and the potential and the opportunity, and with all of the quirks that go along with starting a project. And I just want to encourage all of you that if you're thinking about doing something, just do it. The process is part of the journey, right? And so I was talking to a old college friend of mine, and she was saying that she wants to write a book. I've come across a couple of people who want to write books, and my advice is just get started. Just get doing it, and do it often as possible. Gain the discipline to do it. And so thank you for being on this journey with me. And I just want to encourage you that whatever your thing is, just start to do it, and enjoy the process and all the things that come along with it. I think I just want to do 2 things today. I want to talk about a chapter in my book, For the Good of All and to the Harm of None, a worldview through a philanthropic lens that I wrote a few years ago. And then I just wanted to comment on something that I saw on a television series. It's a reality show, and one of the contestants did something that I thought was amazing. And I want to talk about that. So the chapter in this book is entitled Of Things Made Up of Pyrrhic Victories. And so we're spelling Pyrrhic, Pyrrhic, Pyrrhic. And according to Wikipedia, a Pyrrhic victory is a victory that inflicts such a devastating toll on the victor that it is tantamount to defeat. Someone who wins a Pyrrhic victory also has taken a heavy toll that negates any true sense of achievement or damages long-term progress. So that's the word of the day, Pyrrhic, 2 words, I guess, Pyrrhic victories. And as we talk a little bit more about it, the idea is, where do Pyrrhic victories show up in your life, and what you can do to eliminate Pyrrhic victories. And instead, we want what's called Irenic victories. Irenic victories, for the purpose of this conversation, is defined as achieving long-lasting and sustainable peace and reconciliation. Sustainable peace and reconciliation among all human beings begins with the belief that win-win scenarios are preferential to zero-sum or win-lose scenarios, primarily because no matter how many times you win, you will eventually lose. Again, we're talking about mind shifts, paradigm shifts, mindsets in our life. And that's what we want to take action on, is us, you, me. For example, I think a lot of people's lens is that life is a game to be won or lost. That's crazy to me. Rather, I challenge us to think of life as a journey toward our higher being while contributing to the well-being of humanity. And so I just want to go back and I guess give a reference point to this idea of Pyrrhic victories, and then kind of talk about some, how it connects to today. And so in August of 2021, I believe, the United States was in the process of getting out of Afghanistan, the Afghanistan war. And Biden was the president at the time. President Biden responded that we're withdrawing our troops. Yet there was this fear of falling back under Taliban rule within a matter of weeks. And so my first thought was, haven't we been there for 20 years? I mean, so we've been there for 20 years and we're going to leave and it's going to collapse in weeks? What was the point? And so I did a little research, and yes, it turns out that we were in Afghanistan over the course of 4 presidents, beginning with Bush, then Obama, and then Trump, and then Biden, right? And so I'm thinking, so 20 years, how does something collapse in a couple of weeks? And, obviously with war, as in everything that's going on in life, when you have opposites and enemies, people want to win or they want to lose, or they want to be able to declare victory. And this, to me, would be a prime example of a Pyrrhic victory. I mean, when we were leaving, people were literally clinging to moving airplanes. And if you recall in the news, I think there was an episode, not an episode, but a news clip where a young man died because he had gotten into the wheel well of the airport and I think froze to death or fell out of the airplane. And so, what a way to exit a country. And I think that if a 2-week collapse is the result of being somewhere for 20 years, I think that's disrespectful and embarrassing. And it speaks to gross incompetence. I guess it depends on your perspective of why were we in Afghanistan. And for me, it begs a lot of questions, right? So, when would be a right time to leave? Was there any conversation around was Afghanistan going to be sustainable after we left? How long do you think it would take, for the Taliban to retake the country or the town or a city or even the capital, right? And so when I look at, Afghanistan after we were there in 20 years, just, leaving in 2021, and again, just going on photos, my limited experience, I'm always up to be fact checked for the purpose of learning something new. But I didn't see new roads. I didn't see a new healthcare system. I questioned if they had running water. Did we address the basic life needs, food, water, shelter, clothing? So it just seemed odd to me. And like, how do we declare victory? How are we measuring victory? And then, it made me think about when Hillary Clinton was running for president and she was talking about Afghanistan. And, I think at one point, didn't we fund the Taliban? Didn't we put them in the position of power? And so then it begs the question, how do we measure victory in terms of the United States? And the only thing I could think about, the first thing I thought about was oil. But then I'm like, I don't know if Afghanistan is really known for oil. But I do know that it was recognized as the world's leading illicit drug producer since 2001. In 2007, 93% of non-pharmaceutical grade opiates on the world market originated in Afghanistan. Opium production in Afghanistan is where I got this from. Wikipedia.org was the source. So was the question to source opioids out of Afghanistan at any cost? Hearing Hillary Clinton speak on the matter of Afghanistan made me think about how the United States, we've propped up governments all over the world, and not necessarily to support the country becoming sustainable. We talk about human rights, social justice, equity, and health. But at the end of the day, it boils down to a Pyrrhic victory, right? Was the victory worth it, especially for the soldiers who died in that conflict and their families? I think that would be the number one gauge. And I would wonder if we asked them, the people who actually fought the war, do they think it was worth it? Is it a Irenic victory or a Pyrrhic victory? What would they say? The same story was with Noriega in Panama. There was something in El Salvador with the CIA. I mean, I get it, right? I mean, I just, just thinking about what has happened and what do we do differently moving forward. Pyrrhic victories in nature, I don't think are worth it, right? Based on the result and the consequences. What is it exactly that was won, and was it worth it, right? If the United States approached Afghanistan via the lens of a philanthropic mindset of creating a win-win scenario, when we first entered the country 20 plus years ago, the exit would have been noble. A conversation starter could have been, how can we help your country become self-sustaining in terms of governing itself? In terms of sharing its natural resources in an equitable manner with the world? How can we improve education? What is your sewage system like, your healthcare? In the meantime, some of your children could have gone to different countries in the world and come back to be doctors and lawyers. And in 2 generations' time, Afghanistan could have been a different place. I'm more interested in the idea of now what, so what, or what now? Like, meaning, okay, all of this happened, so what does it mean? I think a lot of us are passive observers in life. And we have these conversations, we talk about the news, we talk about events, etc. But when it comes to ideas of, okay, so now that we know that, what are we going to do? The question becomes, what will we do differently, or what could we have done differently so this does not happen again? The conversation begins with a mindset shift of creating win-win scenarios from the perspective that we are all human beings first, and that all decisions should be made within the context of what is in the best interest of advancing humanity. I am not naive, but at the same time, when you eliminate the reason for people to behave inhumanely, it changes the dynamics. And I think we have to be hopeful. The end game of a philanthropic mindset in terms of an Afghanistan situation, let's say, would have been an exit strategy where we leave peacefully and not as we did in August of 2021. So this begs the question, getting back to Pyrrhic Victories. How do we define the greatest country on earth? I submit that the greatest country on earth is the country that leads with a philanthropic mindset to advance the well-being of all humanity across the world. This country, the greatest country on earth, not the United States. I'm saying the ideal, right, of what the characteristics of the country that's the greatest country on earth, creates win-win scenarios, and it is not the lone dominant over other countries. Being a part of their decision-making process is by invitation, and it means playing some role, no matter how small or large, in uplifting the people in the country in a sustainable way, while doing the least harm to others. Remember, for the good. This way leads to growth and evolution with a sense of purpose that perpetuates the advancement of humanity. Anything less is Pyrrhic in nature. So my takeaway for you all is understanding what a Pyrrhic victory is versus an irenic victory. And how do we reduce the Pyrrhic victories in our life, even from the standpoint of, arguing with a spouse or a loved one or a sibling around the idea of being right for right's sake, right? And that creates winners and losers. And sometimes I think it's wise to kind of pick and choose your battles, try to create win-win scenarios. It's very interesting because our mindsets are so focused on winning and losing that sometimes when we win, we actually lose, right? Because the other person feels less than, or they don't feel valued. And that's not cool. And I think when you start treating people in win-win scenarios, and trying to figure out, well, what would make this work for you, right? What has to happen for you to walk away from this deal feeling good about it? And here's what I have to happen. People are startled and alarmed, and they're taken aback, and they are disarmed. And I just think that's the way that we want to kind of shift our mindset. So journey with me with that regard. Lastly, I wanted to talk about, I was watching Funny AF with Kevin Hart. That's a Netflix special. Basically, Kevin and Chelsea Handler and some other well-known comics, Chris Rock makes an appearance. They're doing a reality series where they're trying to figure out the next big comedian. And so they're having contests in New York, Chicago, LA, and they have these, they boil it down to the final 18 and then 6, and they pick the best comedian will get a Netflix special. And so it starts out, it's a series, right? So different episodes, just kind of figure out who the comedians are, they're being funny, who's getting selected, etc. Maybe the 3rd or 4th episode, and they have these challenges. And so the 3rd or 4th episode, one of the challenge was be funny about current events. But then there was an episode that was We're going to do a roast style episode. And so be funny in a roast. And we're going to roast Marshawn Lynch. I'm a little torn about roasts, right? When you come from the perspective of, well, how is that good for people, right? A roast. I've watched roasts. The Tom Brady roast was it was funny, but it was hard. So I'm torn, right? And so like sometimes like, ouch, that joke hit a little too hard. It was too serious. Yeah. But it was funny. But where do you draw the line is the question. And so on the Kevin Hart series, Funny AF, I don't want to. I feel like I'm promoting it. But when they got to the episode, and they knew this ahead of time, so Kevin Hart said, "Hey, next episode, the challenge is going to be roasting. We're going to roast Marshawn Lynch." And there was one comedian, and a lot of comedians talked about they were uncomfortable doing roasts. They don't like doing roasts, but they were all committed to doing it because they were going to win a Netflix special. That was what was at risk, which begs the question, what are we willing to do and for what? And one of the finalists, right? So I think it was down to like, maybe they started with, I don't know, let's say 30 comedians, and they narrowed it down to 15 comedians. And it might have been 10, I don't know. And there was a comedian, I don't know her full name, I want to say Andrea maybe. Let's just go with Andrea. I think she was from Canada, but she's an immigrant from China. And so a lot of her comedy was around the idea of being an immigrant from China and just good humor. She was cool. But before the episode, and they showed this, which was very good on Kevin Hart's part, she did a Zoom call with Kevin Hart, just one-on-one, and basically she quit the episode, or she quit the contest because she was not comfortable roasting someone. And I just want to say big up to you, Andrea. I think that took a lot of integrity. And Kevin Hart, I thought he was fine too. In the Zoom call, he's like, "Hey, I respect your decision. I understand, but do you really understand what's at stake here? And are you sure?" That's all he said it, and he said it one time. He wasn't trying to. I didn't take it that he was trying to convince her to change her mind. I took it as he respected it, but he was like, "Are you sure?" And she paused, and she said, "Yes, I'm sure." And I just wanted to big you up. I thought it showed class. It spoke to me around the idea of not everyone is for sale for everything, and I think you are to be commended for that. With that said, all of you who are listening to For the Good of All podcast with me, your host, Lorenzo Chambers, I want to leave you with the idea of what will be your verse in the poem of life.